This next section is interesting. Arnold heads into the workshop to access the next upgrade station in the theater. However, access to the theater is currently not possible without a Springlock suit. The player must explore the workshop and find all 5 pieces of the pirate captain character Springlock suit, and bring it back to the control center to assemble the costume. Though the Mimic will be roaming the workshop in different suits, so you must, as always, be careful.
Oh my god.
Once the suit is complete, you can enter it and Arnold is transported to another floor where the power goes out, and you must sneak around the Mimic again to restore it, before finally getting taken to the theater. Here, Arnold must lower the catwalk to cross an enormous hole in the floor, and as he's doing that, he comes across a very haunting sight. The lights flicker and a massive white tiger mascot is standing in the far corner of the room. But just as quickly as it appears, he vanishes, and what follows are the sounds of ghostly laughter, along with the Mimic's distorted voice in the background. This is the first time the White Tiger appears in the game, and I'll discuss him more in a minute. Once Arnold gets across the catwalk in the suit, he's taken to a balcony overlooking the theater stage. To start the show, he starts a wooden target and the play commences. We watch as an automatic puppet show plays out before us, featuring our beloved Foxy.
Main stage curtains, action.
Ahoy there, Kit.
Ahoy, Foxy.
The show itself is lighthearted and wholesome, and the player must progress the story by shooting more wooden targets. If they fail, they'll be jump scared by the puppets themselves. Once this is done, the theater, for whatever reason, falls apart and the balcony underneath Arnold collapses, making him pass out yet again. He's got quite the luck, it seems.
Reloading. Reloading.
Despite this, he survives. He seems to have that Nathan Drake luck, and wakes up in an unfamiliar place to a new animatronic looming over the Springlock suit he's in.
Oh, no. Poor Captain. Another Springlock failure? According to your records, this is not your first visit to the service hospital. Scanning. Error. It appears you have a foreign object wedged inside. Now don't you worry. We will get you all sorted out.
Meet Dollie, an animatronic nurse whose purpose is to assist with recycling broken down animatronics and technology parts. Right now, her primary focus is on the Captain animatronic we're in, and how she believes that we suffered a Springlock failure. She happily prepares a procedure in which the dead body inside the suit will be cleaned out and disposed of before zipping off on her track. This seems to be a hint that there's an actual protocol either Fazbear Entertainment or MCM has in place when someone gets springlocked, and while I understand that it would need to be cleaned, the idea of just casually getting rid of organic remains in a suit like it's just common filth is quite disturbing. Arnold exits the suit and makes his way to the catwalk outside, where a recording of Edwin briefly goes over the recycling center's purpose and introduces Dollie in earnest.
Working recycling automation. Say hello, Nurse Dollie.
Hello, Nurse Dollie.
Oh, that gets me every time. I thought it would be fun to go with a doll hospital team. Pretty neat, huh? Dollie, tell them what you do.
I am charm, and it will soon be an industry standard. I take broken stuff and turn it into new stuff.
Dollie then goes back to zooming on her track in a big, unfinished make-believe hospital. We must avoid her while retrieving a gear to open the door, and if she catches you, she will smack you in the face with her defibrillator hands, which is pretty awesome. Once the door is open and Arnold heads over there, he finds that Dollie is missing. Right in front of the open door are her shoes. He heads inside, and lo and behold, Dollie is now freely roaming about, and upon some careful sneaking around, we are able to reach the next Mr. Helpful terminal. He informs us that the trash chutes are blocked in the doll hospital and we must clear them out before we can proceed any further. The next section shows Arnold avoiding Dollie in the hospital while collecting the remaining garbage cubes and dispensing of them into the chutes. As you're avoiding Dollie, you can actually find a second copy of the admin upgrade machine in the back of the hospital, which is pretty convenient. Collect all 6 of them and the maintenance hatch will open, leading Arnold down to the conveyor belt level, where he must pelt Dollie with the real trash piles that he took, knocking her back into the furnace and seemingly destroying her. Or so one would think. Upon descending into the power core area, Arnold finds Dollie crawling out of the incinerator, all but shrugging off the clearly feeble attempt to get rid of her. She pursues Arnold with the most epic theme I've ever heard, and he manages to lose her after slipping through a vent to an adjacent corridor. He must avoid her some more until he reaches the elevator and books it out of there. Unfortunately, the elevator gets stuck, which triggers another repair segment led by Fiona. Once again, Arnold must fix it, and this gets the elevator underway again. Even more unfortunately, Dollie drops herself on top of the elevator, trying to punch her way through the roof. Arnold must repair the elevator once again, but is now on a timer, and after a tense final repair minigame, the elevator accelerates upward. Suddenly, Dollie convulses, and there's a strange noise above us. The mimic crawls out of Dollie's body, aware it's about to be smashed into the ceiling, and leaps for safety right before Dollie is left for dead. For good this time. I don't have too much to say about the first part of this next section. I liked having to sneak around the workshop, and the puppet show was really precious. Although I'm not sure if it was necessary to have the puppet show be a shooting minigame, or having that floor where you get stuck and turn on the power before continuing the elevator to the theater. It's not a big deal to me, but it just kinda sticks out a bit. To me personally, the assembly of the captain's suit is the strongest part of this first half. The environment of the workshop is incredibly eerie. Not only are the costumes around us filthy, half of them are just unfinished. Old foam layer suits, dirty and decrepit from neglect and age. It's gross. Many of them are hanging from hooks along the ceiling, and it's genuinely haunting. Even though they're only unfinished, it looks the opposite. They look like they've been skinned and their deceased forms were left to rot on a hook like trophies. It's even more unsettling watching the mimic walk around in these kinds of suits, like he's reanimating dead bodies to his will, and it feels even more tense having to sneak around them with the scary sounds that they make, like the growling. Then there's Dollie. I can't tell you how much I love that the mimic converts his feet into stiletto high heels. It looks glorious and I love it to pieces. I want more of this. He's a legend for doing all of that in heels. This is my second favorite section of the whole game, although I do have one wish, which is that they should have done a little more with Dollie's first section than the same stealth mechanics we've been doing the whole game. It was cool to search for the trash cubes. I enjoy a good hunt for materials I need, and I love the way the ambiance picks up when you're on the conveyor belt. I think it adds to the depths of the scene. Like your efforts of finding the trash cubes is actually worth it instead of something like just collecting them and then running back to turn the power on. The game takes your hard work and actually uses it to help you overthrow the boss. It's so much more clever than Security Breach having a child literally shove an entire animatronic into a trash compactor by himself. Then there's Dollie herself. She's honestly my second favorite new character from this game. Her design is straight up nightmare fuel. I think it's mostly due to her lazy eyes and freakish mouth. Like, just look at this thing. Dollie looks like something you would see in like a creepypasta of a lost episode of Sesame Street or something. She's just... I could not believe my eyes when I saw her up close for the first time. That was creepy. I really like how she's primarily meant to move around by zipping on the track. The way she glides towards Arnold when he wakes up in the suit looks so cool. Like you can see her shaking a little, and then the way she holds still after moving like she's just this giant toy. Speaking of which, she almost feels like a nice little nod to Ella from the books. Because if you recall from the Silver Eyes, Ella was a doll that only moved around on the track, which I think is pretty sweet. As for her personality, Dollie's character seems like she would be genuinely docile and have good intentions at heart. The way she reassures the captain that he'd be okay, the enthusiasm she displays when going through her pre-recorded performance, her voice lines showing her easygoing and dedicated nature to her job.
Trash to cash. Always look busy. I will try turning it off and on again. Sort. What brings you in today? Time to do my rounds. You need a lobotomy.
Although the unsettling and tragic nature of Dollie comes from how she continues to operate despite the fact that this facility is no longer up and running the way it used to. I saw a comment on someone else's video saying that Dollie gives the vibe of a caretaker that sort of lost her mind after being abandoned for so long. And the whirs and the clicks of her body come from what time and neglect have inflicted on her. She just doesn't move like how she used to, and I very much agree with this. The glee she carries in her voice lines during the stealth segment carry this sort of deeper feeling to them. Like now she's almost too eager to carry out her duties because she's just been left alone for so long. As for the environment, the doll hospital is nightmare fuel incarnate. A filthy hospital is already a pretty classic, strong setup for spookiness, and it's made even more uncomfortable by all the limp mascot suits littered around the place. Some of them are even disemboweled, on shelves, or just straight up forced into amalgamations of themselves. The lights in this place are either a pale greenish white or orange. The greenish white adds to the hospital vibe. It gives that sort of sterile feeling you would see in a movie, whereas the orange lights are closer to the control panel for the garbage chutes to be deployed into the incinerator below. The orange lights, not only is orange heavily associated with the mimic in this game, but I personally find it to be a more oppressive color in an atmosphere, but maybe that's just me. These colors bring a cold dread to this place. This is not the friendly, cutesy hospital Edwin was advertising. This is a nightmare asylum where the broken animatronics, the patients, are subject to possibly horrific experimentation and possibly chucked into the molten lava to be recycled, as Dollie so happily put it. What was that she said? Take broken stuff and turn it into new stuff? Yeah, checks out. Oh, and one more note about the gameplay I want to add is that I really like the detail of Dollie being able to have shortcuts around the map because only she can access the massive teal doors with the defibrillators in her palms and Arnold can't. I just think it's a nice little way to spice up the creativity of this segment here. But now moving on to Dollie's chase, and oh dear, I love Dollie's chase so much that my only complaint is that it wasn't longer. The music is incredibly awesome, and having her and subsequently the mimic just shrug off the one thing that we hoped would end them is very intimidating. It's also scary watching Dollie force her way through the wall and how the elevator slowly places Arnold directly in front of her, with no other choice but to start running. You're just stuck in place, forced to watch as the monster you try to defeat just brushes off the attack that you just gave them. Her distorted voice is awesome, and I really like the detail of using her footprints and the glow from her body to see where she is in the hallways when you're avoiding her. Overall, I think Dollie was really well utilized. Just like the others, she felt like a true threat, and it felt satisfying to defeat her by repairing the elevator and forcing the Mimic to retreat, like we were actually pushing back against him for the first time. Also, I love how the game subtly builds up the elevator minigames to the final one. Like, the first one is easy, you're underneath the elevator. Then the second one is unique because you're repairing the elevator from inside. And then the third one, you're on a straight up timer. I think like the third one just feels like a great final boss of those games. I really like that. I think there was a normal one just before the one with Dollie because at that point in the game we had only done the minigame one other time. So they gave us a quick refresher before they dropped her onto us. If that was the intention, I really like that. Once Arnold has the admin upgrade, he now has access to the warehouse in front of the security office. Upon entering, the Mimic returns, now dressed as Chica. Specifically, an older version of Chica wearing roller skates meant for an old restaurant. Chica's Party World. Does that sound familiar? Arnold avoids Chica while restarting the power to the warehouse, and he slips away to an adjacent room housing parade floats. Here we must use a crane to move the parade floats in a way that gets us across the room. And once this is done, Arnold is taken to another manager's office where the White Tiger appears once again, followed by more ghostly voices and laughter. After this, we find the admin office, where a familiar cupcake awaits us.
So I have a problem with you.
This section is certainly memorable. In the admin office, we must avoid not only Chica, but her army of cupcakes poised to alert her to our location if we get too close. The goal is to sneak past Chica and get to the staircase on the other side of the room to get to Edwin's office. Once this is done, you're able to find the final upgrade station, Executive Status. Using this unlocks Edwin's office, which leads to us unlocking a side room where the Mimic's blueprints are being held, and at long last, we finally get a hold of them. We turn to leave, but Chica has followed. Arnold shuts the door and heads out through the vent shaft, which drops him down into a small room with an elevator. Upon taking the elevator, he winds up in the basement, which initiates the next big confrontation. Arnold opens the door and is greeted with flickering lights in the pitch-black darkness. In the middle of that darkness rises two piercing eyes of a familiar feline creature. Out of the darkness arises the White Tiger. In this section, the flickering lights will provide a path for us as we run through the darkness. White Tiger will teleport all around the room, attempting to corner us. Successfully avoiding him will take us to a lever that unlocks the door at the end of the room. Run towards it, and we take a small star-shaped nightlight with us to see through the darkness ahead. Place the nightlight in its stand to activate the next door, where you avoid White Tiger and the flickering lights, and grab the next nightlight to see through the next maze of corridors. Throughout this encounter, more ghostly children's laughs and the Mimic's broken imitations will echo all around us. Although in the next 2 corridors, White Tiger will appear directly in front of you to block your path. You have to move carefully until you reach the final nightlight stand, and then you can finally leave the basement at last. To start the breakdown, I personally really liked Chica's sections. The admin office was admittedly frustrating when you're trying to get all the mailboxes in there especially, but I love her design enough to forgive the game for that sort of. Her face is creepy, and the rest of her design and her just gliding around on roller skates is the sweetest, most precious thing I've ever seen out of her character, and it made me smile so much. Seeing Mimic dancing in the suit is so precious. He just does a little shimmy from side to side, and then he ends off by excitedly clapping his hands. It's so cute. Also, I adore how after nearly a decade, they finally brought back Chica's party world and fleshed it out more. We now know it was an entire roller skating rink establishment with its own arcade to boot. These old designs of Chica, the Cupcake, as well as other small mascots were so refreshing to see after so many years of speculation regarding Chica's party world. World building like this is something I've been wanting for so long, and it really fleshes the world out more. What the f did I just say? World building like this is something I've been wanting for so long, and it just enriches the game more. Like the Spring Bonnie bobblehead that sits on Arnold's dashboard. My least favorite part of this hour has to be the parade float puzzle. This just seemed to me like another unnecessary puzzle to have. It's easy once you know what to do, but it takes forever because of how slow the crane is. Thankfully, it's not that long. Then my favorite part is White Tiger. I will admit, when I first saw his design in the Help Wanted 2 update all that time ago, I wasn't personally a fan of how he looked in the games. But now I've really warmed up to White Tiger. He looks properly unnatural, and the way he stands under the spotlights in the basements looks especially striking. This section had my hands genuinely shaking. It's like it takes you back to when you were a kid and scared of leaving your bedroom during the night, even with a nightlight on. The Starbright nightlights especially reminded me of how the hallway in my house used to look during the night as a child when I wanted to get up and use the bathroom. This section digs into that old sense of vulnerability you would feel back then. And it especially helps that between White Tiger and the stars, these are all babies' toys. Toys for a certain someone that I'll get into soon. This section digs into that old sense of vulnerability you would feel back then. The weak amount of light barely illuminating the path before you feels insignificant compared to whatever could be waiting for you in the shadows. And this section brings that fear to life by having creepy things suddenly appearing in the light radius. Old, unused suits, White Tiger himself. And then there are the voices in the background, which, by the way, can we talk about how refreshing it is to see some actual, overtly paranormal / supernatural stuff in FNAF again? Also, there are the hallucinations of White Tiger's face when you stare at him too much, which I also really like. I think that's really cool. Everything about this encounter feels incredibly heavy. It positively oozes aura to me so much. One final thing that especially creeps me out is how Tiger never physically runs or moves toward us. He's always fixed in one place when we can see him. Not only does that really sell the unnatural factor, but it's like he doesn't even need to try to catch his prey. He just waits for them to mess up and come to him. Also, when I was replaying this section, I looked back for the first time as I escaped, and White Tiger had been standing inches behind where I previously opened the switch to run to the door, and he was just watching me. I saw it for a split second before the door closed, and I just think that was just incredibly powerful. I love that detail so much, it's not even funny. After Arnold survives the basement, he heads back into the security office with the Mimic's blueprints. Dispatch is thrilled and orders him to place the data diver into the inventory machine before going home. This is where a pivotal choice is made. Now, if you surrender the diver here, you trigger the first ending, which is a quick one. Arnold is free to go home and he leaves the facility. As he's driving away, he gets called by Dispatch again. He's upset, telling Arnold that he had been trying to reach him all night and asking why didn't he answer, much to Arnold's confusion. He tells Dispatch what just happened at the manor, and Dispatch fires him on the spot for losing company property before hanging up.
Arnold, there you are. We've been trying to get a hold of you all night. Why didn't you answer? Fazbear Entertainment has no other option but to let you go.
I just talked to you. You told me to give you the data diver and I could go home.
So you admit it? You misplaced company property.
No, I gave it to you.
Fazbear Entertainment will hold you personally responsible for lost or stolen property. What did you expect would happen?
I did everything you told me to.
Don't call us. Our lawyers will be calling you.
Before Arnold can figure out what's happening, there's a light coming from the back of the truck. Adjusting his mirror, he sees an endoskeleton head, the Mimic, coming out of hiding, accosts Arnold in the driver's seat as the screen cuts to black. The credits roll, showing that Arnold has been stuffed into a suit while the Mimic watches in the distance. That is the bad ending, but these next endings are far more powerful. Back at the security office, if you choose to not give up the data diver, and instead run a program called parachute.exe, you trigger the second ending. A secret passage opens in the floor and Arnold jumps down, crawling in the dirty space while Dispatch begins showing a more sinister demeanor. He tells Arnold that he's disappointed. If only he cooperated, he would have been left alive. But now the Mimic would surely catch him, and not only stuff him into a suit, but a suit that matches who he is. It is here that Dispatch indirectly reveals that the Mimic studies people, gets a measure of their character so that when he catches them, he will find a suit that's right for them. Arnold finds himself back in the welcome show lobby where he begins a goodbye show. A different song begins playing while the center of the floor rises to reveal a button. Upon going down and pressing it, the floor descends. It's actually a lift. We head down a little bit before it gets stuck. One of the many levers on the lift blares, indicating that we're supposed to flip it to fix it. Once this is done, we get underway again, but there's a rumble. Remember when I said Big Top's boss fight was the last we saw of him? That was a lie. He uses the last of his strength to crawl out of a tunnel and pursue Arnold one more time. This begins a sequence where the elevator gets stuck multiple times and we must flip the switches as fast as possible before shattered Big Top catches up to us. Arnold makes it to the bottom floor and runs out right before Big Top collapses, now fully down for the count. This leads into the Research and Development Center, where Arnold stumbles across a prototype Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, filled with prototypes of the classic FNAF 1 animatronics as well as 4 separate Springlock suits. He activates the lights and emerging from his scrap pile, wearing an amalgamation of all 4 animatronics is the Mimic. This section is essentially a reverse FNAF 1 situation. Dispatch is hiding in the security office down the 2 hallways, and Arnold must position the Springlock animatronics into the camera views to force the security doors closed and drain the office power. The Springlock characters are Bub, Monty, Prototype Spring Bonnie, and Prototype Fredbear. Once the power is fully drained, Dispatch drops the facade to reveal F10 and 4. Fiona, or at least a copy of her.
And here you are. Despite the circumstances, it is nice to meet you face to face.
Heading inside the office, we find an AI speaking to us from what will most likely eventually become the Nexus machine, to my knowledge. An AI taking on the persona of Fiona Murray. She tells us that in order to stop the Mimic, we must head up to the Murray house to activate a communications sub-terminal that will allow her to reach out to Edwin to convince him to fix the Mimic.
Sub-terminal. I have a message for him. We must convince him to repair M2. That is all that I want. If you do not, M2 will never stop pursuing you. Tell Edwin, I still love him. Entering standby mode.
Running low on power, she enters standby mode, the door behind Arnold opening to take him to the Murray Manor. When I tell you that this ending is absolute cinema for a FNAF game, I mean it. Dispatch's rambling is some of the best lines Andy Field has ever done for FNAF. It's well written and menacing, making you truly dread what's going to come next.
You could have helped. If you had just given me the schematics, we could have fixed things. I thought you were different.
I thought you might understand. But you're just like the others. The other technicians, the workers. They didn't listen, and it caught them all. Now it's your turn to play dress up. When he catches you, which one will he choose? Who are you deep down inside? Another worker bee? A bumbling bee? Perhaps a busy bee? In many ways, tonight has been a comedy of errors. A jester would suit you well. Or a bunny, running from danger, scared, stupid, searching for a hole to hide in. No, you did everything I asked up to this point. You were an obedient dog, a good dog. Then you bit the hand that fed you.
The Goodbye Show, happy and whimsical. It gives you a small grace period of innocence. It's a light in this darkness that fades away as you descend with the lift. And then the dread and horror returns in full force when Big Top appears. I love Big Top's final scene. It just works on so many levels. He already looked really creepy to begin with. In his wrecked state, he looks hideous. The sounds are amazing. His music box is missing notes showing how damaged it is, the blaring of the alarms, the stinger in the background, the tickets and rubble falling from above. It all works in unison with the urgency to get away as quickly as possible. And then when you finally escape, he succumbs as he collapses before shutting down for good. It's honestly kind of sad seeing an animatronic going mad after they're shattering, not caring about what's left of their bodies because they're so hell-bent on revenge or more violence, and then they finally break down and it just leaves a sense of remorse behind. They never asked for this. Not most of them anyway. And then the pizzeria segment. It's so clever how much they called back to classic FNAF, not only with the layout and the animatronics, but with the gameplay. Leaving the Springlock suits in the camera view is a great callback to how the animatronics stood still in the cameras back then, and how using the cameras and doors drained the power. Also, seeing the prototypes of not only the classic Core 4 of Freddy's crew, but Fredbear and Spring Bonnie sent me into the stratosphere. I can't tell you the immense joy I felt during this part, especially seeing how Fredbear's hinges and the little nod to how he looked in the FNAF 4 minigames with his jaw. Having the Mimic appear as a mashup of the original Freddy's crew is very creative, and I love that they did that. I'll give more of my thoughts on the Fiona reveal when I get into the story later. This is where things get especially real. Arnold travels by underground cart to the Murray house, where the Mimic has followed him and is roaming around. Arnold must retrieve 5 tapes and watch them to find the passcode to open the door upstairs. The tapes each show David Murray's birthday parties, his first all the way to his 5th and final one. The tapes will show different numbers at the end, corresponding to the colors of the tapes, which correspond to the order of colors in David's name spelled in a photograph. Once you input the passcode into the upstairs door, you will find Edwin's office, heavily damaged. The audio log inside reveals the full extent of what happened in this room.
Test, test.
Journal entry. Too bad the new power test was a failure. Due to a minor detonation, there is damage to my office interior, as well as a small fire. Note to self, portable cleaner that gets rid of smoke damage. Ooh, better yet, a Cleanovac attachment.
Help! M2! Respond! Emergency! Call for help!
Daddy's busy, buddy. Why don't you go outside and play?
Please! I can't move. I can't feel my legs.
You know, speaking of legs, what do you think? I just finished mine. There are still a few kinks to work out.
I'm sorry, M2. I lost my temper. I was always gonna fix you. Please, call for help. M2, respond.
Oh, can't right now, buddy. We can do something fun tomorrow. I promise. Ask your mom if she's not busy.
M2, help.
Unlocking the side room, Arnold locates the sub-communications terminal and activates something called the Cradle program. Upon turning around, the Mimic is standing in the doorway, now in his true form, no longer wearing any costumes. This is the real Mimic. He stalks forward. Arnold closes the door, but Mimic is faster. He catches the door, forcing it back up. Arnold runs through the attic and activates one more generator to reach the elevator. It works, but there's a power surge. Sparks fly out and the room begins to catch on fire, as does the rest of the building. Arnold reaches the elevator just in time as he escapes the Mimic, leaving him behind. As the elevator descends, F10 and 4 begins to speak, addressing Edwin as if he's currently there, listening.
Edwin, it's me. It's been a long time since we had a chance to talk. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Knowing you're still trying to hold it all together.
She begs him to fix the Mimic, her child, and to leave the company behind.
Once in a while, I miss you. But I miss my child more. I watched him grow up through this machine. I want him back. It's not too late to fix our family. Entering standby.
When she's done, the Mimic jumps down the elevator shaft, ripping apart the barriers as the final pursuit begins. The house fire has reached the MCM facility, and the entire structure is destabilizing quickly. Mimic chases Arnold down the tunnels, punching and crawling around obstacles. Along the way, there are dozens of small robots made of junk with similar eyes to the Mimic. These are the Proto-Mimics, and it's unclear whether they are actively helping Mimic in his hunt or if they're just trying to escape, but they can kill you, so take that as you will. The Mimic eventually corners Arnold on a bridge. But before he can destroy him, another bridge from above collapses on top of him, causing him to fall. Arnold takes the opportunity to escape and manages to run out of the burning facility in one piece. It's not over though. The Proto-Mimics have followed him outside and latch onto his truck as he drives away. And just when he finally gets them off, the Mimic climbs down from the roof, punches through the windshield, and crashes the van. Barely clinging on to life, Arnold weakly tries to crawl out of the van. The Mimic approaches, lifting the vehicle to reach inside and grab Arnold's data diver. Then he walks off with it, leaving Arnold to die. And that concludes the second ending. I have to say that getting to see Edwin's house made me very happy. It was genuinely one of my biggest hopes from the moment I started the game. The house itself, by the way, is a total mess, and I love it. Neglected and falling apart, there are costumes and inventions scattered everywhere. It seems almost like Edwin went mad after isolating himself, which is no surprise considering how he lost everything. It's sullen, it's eerie, and it's genuinely sad. Getting to avoid the Mimic with a culmination of all the noisemakers and hiding places we've had throughout the game made this feel like a solid final confrontation to me. And I really love the sort of callback to Into the Pit with just avoiding a monster with rabbit ears and a dirty house like this. Like, this was a really cool little connection right here. The Mimic's final costume is very creative. It's an amalgamation of all 4 classic animatronics from FNAF 1, with their prototype parts of course, but it's still very striking. The Mimic repeating different voice lines from all the other characters throughout the game is a chilling detail. It just reinforces the fact that you're in the endgame now.
Where do you think you're going?
You're not alone back here.
What's up? Welcome, new user. You there?
That, combined with how much he's running around instead of calmly walking like he was before, shows how the Mimic is going crazy trying to figure out what personality it wants to be to catch you in. It's like he's lost all patience and is getting really desperate to find you before you can escape. One thing I have to say about the tape collecting is that I kinda wish they made the photograph on the recording device bigger, so it would be faster to notice earlier on that you're supposed to arrange the door code numbers by the colors and David's name, because this was originally something I got stuck on for a little. But speaking of the tapes, this was all some of the most impactful, gut-wrenching content FNAF has given us. The tapes give us more insight into the Murray family, and most of all, how Edwin was as a father. I will also cover this in more detail in the story section in a minute. I really hope to get more things like this in future FNAF games, because this series has been starving for upfront character substance of this kind. It's good, it's memorable, and it makes the official content stand on its own feet. Hearing Mimic throw Edwin's neglect and flawed nature back in his face as he laid injured and helpless before leaving him there was insane.
Emergency! Call for help!
Daddy's busy, buddy. Why don't you go outside and play? Oh, can't right now, buddy. We can do something fun tomorrow. I promise. Ask your mom if she's not busy.
Genuinely one of the best dialogues in this whole franchise. It's full of spite, mockery, vindictiveness, the whole 9 yards. My jaw was on the floor, guys. I love the detail of the Mimic just standing at the end of the hall when you turn around all silent like. It's actually scary, you cannot tell me otherwise. That was scary. The way he even catches the door is so cool. After years of only fan-made content doing this, we finally have an official moment where an animatronic catches a security blast door and hoists it fully open. This thing is unstoppable. The overall animations of the Mimic in this sequence are amazing, but of course, Steel Wool's animations are pretty much always amazing. We are just so blessed with them. Anyway, the final gameplay segment was very befitting of a final chase sequence. The music is this frantic, chaotic mashup of sounds we've heard in other themes, along with the message that tells you to get out as fast as you can. There's no one left to stop this thing, you just have to run and pray it won't find you. This is even better than the chase theme the Mimic had in Ruin, honestly. The Mimic crawls along the ceiling, punches down doors, and rips things up to get to you, showing his increasing frustration and determination to find Arnold. The moment he jumps down onto the bridge, with a very fitting voice line by the way, is swift and precise. No more wasting time, he has you. But then fate intervenes, the debris above Mimic collapsing. He's strong enough to hold it for a moment, but the floor underneath it isn't. It gives way, allowing Arnold to escape. You know, this is a very similar thing that happened to Monty in Security Breach, which is another cool callback. The MCM facility burning down is nothing unusual in a FNAF game, and although I don't mind this outcome, I think having the entire property catching fire because of a small spark from a generator in the house attic was just a little bit of cutting corners. Like, just a bit. Like, the house burning down because of that is fine. But again, the entire facility going down for it is kind of where I personally draw the line. I think it would have felt better if there was like one final power generator underground, and at some point Arnold overloads it or the mimic damages it, and then the chain reaction of destructions begins from there instead. But again, maybe don't take my word for it. Then we have the final moments. Arnold frantically swerving the car is a nice touch. The poor guy is almost home free, and he just wants to get out of there. Then, right at the last second, just as he's gotten all of the proto-mimics off, the mimic has somehow survived and found his way on top of the vehicle, waiting until Arnold dropped his guard to attack. The mimic spinning his hand, smashing the windshield, and the van spinning into a crash was probably one of the most powerful final deliveries of despair that the mimic gave to its victims. Then, like a badass, he lifts the whole truck, grabs the data diver, and just walks off into the forest. Where he would go from there is unknown to me, as both the house and MCM have burned down. Although, this is definitely my favorite of all three endings. I think a bleak ending like this works more for this game than the others. And one more thing. The proto-mimics are genuinely some of the cutest things I've ever seen. The way some of them just frantically run around in circles and hobble, trying to flee the fire is just precious. I would have happily taken some home with me. Remember when I said there was a secret passage in the Big Top showroom? Well, if you slip through the clown cutout during the ball toss game, you reach a door that takes you to a backroom corridor. After activating a generator and avoiding the mimic, you can access the Storytime Showroom, an attraction that is in some serious disrepair, and with a massive hole in the floor. There's not much in the room itself, but upon looking down, you can just barely see the theater backstage area. Remember when I mentioned there was a massive hole through the theater floor too? Well, here you can piece together what happened. Something huge fell from the Storytime ceiling, through the floor, through the theater area, and plunged all the way down to the basement. You can find out what it is in this secret game section. After retrieving executive status, you can return to the main lobby, and at the very back of the second floor balcony, there's a door to the retail showroom. This room is filled with various mascots and toys and merchandise, much like the main lobby itself. Upon figuring out a passcode and entering an elevator, you are taken to another basement section. Here you can see what fell through the building, a gigantic prop of the moon. Something jingles from the nearby hallways. Shining bright in the darkness wanders Sleepy Moon, singing a lullaby. It's here that we learn the unsettling side story of how an employee, wearing the moon costume, got trapped in the basement alone after the moon prop fell. Hey, is anybody up there? I'm stuck down here. The elevator isn't working and I'm getting really hungry. Is anyone getting this message? There, you have it. Just don't use the code unless it's a matter of life or death. Have mercy on our souls if that thing ever gets out. There's not much, but it seems that when the moon prop fell, this employee fell with it. They survived, but someone just locked them away and assumed they were a monster. They left this person to supposedly starve to death down here, and now they've gone mad, their spirit potentially lingering in the Sleepy Moon mascot suit. I think this is a really cool secret section. The side story of an employee who got trapped down here, went mad after starving to death, and then haunting the basement in the moon costume is very chilling. I also found the gameplay of this section to be pretty neat. You have to find the pieces of the Molten power puzzle that are behind locked gates throughout the basement. To unlock the gates, you have to follow the cords along the floor and along the walls to locate the space to insert the Star Orphan nightlight. Then you find the gate again, grab the piece, add it to the generator in the main room, go back and grab the starlight because you only have one, and repeat about 4 more times while avoiding Moon. Okay, I will admit that this part is kind of repetitive, but it stressed me out a lot because I kept getting lost and it seemed like Moon was always getting closer because of his voice echoing through the halls. Like, I was scared, okay? I think Moon's design is also well done. I think it's because of how defined his facial features are that makes him look especially scary. He definitely resembles those really old, cursed-looking puppets on kids' TV shows the most out of any design in this game. His voice also adds to the spookiness. It's low and unsettling, and the way he just aimlessly sings his lullaby through the halls is very foreboding. It's like what Ballora once does in Sister Location.
Lullaby and good night, with roses bed light, with lilies o'erspread, his baby's wee bed. Lay thee down now and rest, may thy slumber be blessed. Lay thee down now and rest, may thy slumber be blessed.
This is definitely one of the scarier parts of the game. Trust me, I had to take breaks during gameplay because this was disturbing.